in particular, but also perhaps USA in general. How is it done? Was it something new in the USA, or it is something which um, you regard it's been a usual business, and so this pandemic was not affecting schoolwork at all. The process is still the same, and if there are any challenges, what challenges is the United States facing?
Yes, very good question. Speaking about my campus, first of all, and also this larger higher education in the US, we already had hybrid learning even before the pandemic. Even well, my school is a smallish school, not as big as other schools, but most schools in the U.S. already had the hybrid learning programs or components to its education. Now, with regard to Trinity Christian College, the way we do hybrid learning is that classes that are normally in an in-person, face-to-face modality meet twice a week. Then we only meet face to face once a week, and then the other time is that it is for the asynchronous study by the students. So we do what we call the flipped classroom. Uh, uh, where actually when the students meet with the professor or with the lecturer, it is about discussing matters, right? Or problem solving, trying to answer the questions from the test that are too difficult for the students. Whereas when the students are doing their own work, they either watch video or study the material that has been prepared by the professor, and then they do the homework, they do the assignment on their own. Of course, this is asynchronous, but we give them a deadline. So let's say that the class should meet Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday is for the in-person, in-class, face-to-face modality, and then the Thursday class is for the students to do this on their own, asynchronously, right? So then they will do the homework, they will study, they will read the material, and then submit the assignment. In our case, at Trinity Christian College, we use a platform that is called Brightspace, and Brightspace is really fun because the assignments are not just written assignments. We can require students to make videos, for instance, or an audio project, or many other things that they can do, and then they can upload the assignment on Brightspace, and then the whole class can see the result of their project or their assignment. And on the day when we meet face to face, then we discuss those assignments, and then we give the students also the opportunity to ask questions, talk about difficulties, challenges, and then the professor will act as a facilitator and help the students to grow and to understand better, and then to prepare the students for the next week's material or a unit. So that's how it is done at Trinity. And it has been common, like what I already said, whether in other schools and also at Trinity, in a limited amount. At Trinity, mostly the hybrid learning was done for our graduate programs, whereas the undergraduate program, before the pandemic, we didn't do that. The undergraduate traditional program. But because of the pandemic, then some classes are turned into this hybrid model.
Okay. Thank you. As far as I remember, talking about my own experience in hybrid learning, or even before that, there was a time when teachers were reluctant to make use of Zoom or any other digital gadgets, not only because we're not that skillful, but also because there's a different environment that is being set, in addition, in comparison to the traditional one. Some say that that kind of setting would not get into it unless you do traditional teaching. It cannot be covered with any gadget means. So would this kind of situation be a challenge for us to continue with hybrid learning? Any five of you could try and respond this.
All right.
Anyone
Well,
like this?
there's a
Okay, Doctor.
saying around here. There's a saying around my colleagues that says, "It is easier to herd cats than it is herding professors and faculty members." That joke is true because it's hard to require professors, especially seasoned professors, to change the way they teach, right? And let's face it, all of us who are speaking today had never been educated, I think, had never been educated in an online situation. I never did that from kindergarten to PhD. All my education was in person, traditional model. And we do not have the role model, so to speak, right? I mean, in my own case of teaching, I take after some of my professors and previous teachers' a way of teaching, approaches, models, even some of their jokes I borrow. That's what makes me a professor today. I can always recall what my former professors did in my own teaching. But now teaching online is a new thing. Especially, whether it's hybrid or fully online, it's a new thing. And so there is, you're right, Bu Eka, that there are, in my case, in our campus, there are a lot of resistances from the faculty. Many of them didn't really want to change into an online modality. So it was a little bit of a tug of war between the administration and the faculty. But the COVID pandemic just made us do it. So whether you like it or not, now you have to do it. So, even myself, I have to confess that I did this kicking and screaming. I was not, I was not a happy camper.
Dr. Tri Basuki, I saw you nodding there as well. Would you like to give your response on this?
Yeah, frankly speaking, this is a difficult situation and this difficult answer. As an administrative in management, we experience difficulty. But we believe that the first interaction, how we interact with the lecturer, we interact with the student, that's the first one. So how to discuss, to find the probability, the possible way to implement this hybrid learning. And from this discussion, from the interaction, we want to encourage the lecturer and the student willing to learn new things, to use the technology, to use the new methods of pedagogy, how to use the new methods of to use a new way of evaluation. That's the first one. We think that's the most important. But the next one, we have to prepare the lecturer and the student with many equipment, not just from the infrastructure, but also from the heart, that they have a happiness to do a new thing. We provide workshop, webinar, courses for lecture, and we provide a pocket book, we provide a manual, we provide infrastructure. But the most important and the most difficult is we develop a pedagogy material. We want to prepare them how to develop the material, the process, how to take the video, how to take the evaluation, how to manage the whole process of the higher education learning. That's from my experience in managing this. When we are still struggling, uh, we believe we are on the right track, but not yet can we set as a success. But we believe this is the way we have to do. That's from my experience.
Okay, thank you. So workshops, webinars, things which makes us teachers happy in quotation marks. What kind of experiences has been done in Dr. Marshall, Dr. Henny, as well as Dr. Min Lee? I mean, do you have any, perhaps, would you like to share with us your experience in giving webinars or workshops that more or less has been working and could be an example for other universities, like how we are now in this group, to follow? And so it becomes one of those recipes that would work for successful teaching learning. Any one of you three? Would you like to comment?
Well, can I go first?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Yeah, in Taiwan, actually, we keep empowering faculties because we hope that they, through these developments, they would know more about and acquire further skills or mature skills to implement this virtual teaching. But I think the huge challenge is still in teachers' mentality and the mindset. I mean, if the teachers cannot realize that virtual learning is becoming part of the new norm of future learning, or if the teachers cannot notice that the pandemic has accelerated this new norm, and they need to, urgently need to learn more and need to empower themselves to enhance their abilities. Many of them will eventually be replaced in this rapidly changing world. And since this is a totally different mode for us, even like one of the panelists mentioned that even us, we're not being developed by this virtual mode. So for faculties, everyone is inexperienced in this. So I think teacher support is very important. And in order to support teachers, I think forming development community, faculty development community is important. And in this community, I think teachers could learn from each other, and we could brainstorm, because since there's no model for us to follow, so we have to create new things, new activities, new design, curriculum designs to stimulate students, to engage students, to make them learn more. So I think innovation should be or could be an important strategies here for every faculties, and community, teacher community is a good way to support each other. Thank you.
Okay, great. I hope I can have Dr. Marshall to give
Yeah.
a response before Dr. Henny. You more or less, what recipe can we have to make successful teaching learning during this hybrid learning process? There's even also a question that you may want to touch on also. Dr. Cecilia here is putting in the public chat, should teachers allow students to stay off cam? It's a classic question as well. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Marshall.
Yeah. For Silliman University, we may be 1 foot ahead, because before the pandemic, we already have a 3-year educational technology program. Part of the 3-year strategic plan is technology, training, and support. It is just that during the pandemic, we are fast forward in a bit. like my office was created, we have a department called Training and Support Office, Information and Quality Office, Technology and Development. This is actually on top of the existing infrastructure related office. And I think that's the best ingredient that we learned, because educational technology integration in our university actually started way back in 2007. We made a failure. We did not, it did not take off because of, again, reluctance, acceptance among faculty, and so on and so forth. Now, during the time that we had to transition in an emergency state, I keep on telling to our colleagues, you should not compare online distance education and face to face as if we have a choice. I often tell them, let's stop comparing the two, because we have no choice. Otherwise, we stop the operation, we stop teaching, and never or do not attempt to try and teach online. So that was the mindset. It's basically that is the thing that I'd mentioned: preparedness and preparation. We're done with the preparedness. We're not ready. Yes. Next is what's next? Because like for a country in the Philippines, from time to time, like in our city, we became alert level 3 down. We are downgraded, and who knows, by next month or in the next 2 months, the government will lift it and go back again to quarantine, and so on and so forth. So things like this is the preparation. It's a matter of providing really pedagogy. It's a matter of providing and letting the faculty understand that online distance learning or hybrid learning is a different pedagogy, and that should not be compared with a face-to-face learning. It is really true that zooming, switching on camera may not be comfortable for some. It is true because it is a matter again of recalibration and mind setting. Recalibration in a sense that our syllabus should be recalibrated in such a way that zooming or switching on the camera will be allowed. And the next is, are our institutions in general recalibrated also the process? Things like those. To respond on the question about, are we safe to require our students to go on with camera? Actually, yes, as long as, for me, as long as it is stipulated in the classroom policies, as long as it is stipulated institutionally as a policy. But considering that we are in an emergency state, we said we teach in compassion. Not all students have very good internet connection. Even in our students, we have students who just, just avail of the free data, internet data. So we cannot require actually for them to switch on the camera. But at least as a teacher, you can develop your own strategy to really verify that the students or the one attending in the Zoom or in your online classes are really the students. Say, for example, asking them like for 30 seconds to switch on their camera to just validate if they are the one really attending your class. It's really a matter of strategy, and at the same time equating it to the institutional policy, because for a country like in the Philippines where internet connection is always a problem, it is really difficult for us to say switch on your camera every live session, because at any rate, at any time, it will be gone. So since we teach by compassion, we forgive some students who just attend the class that you. But in my case, I personally ask my students like just for few seconds for them to really verify, especially during the meet and greet and during the final period. So again, it's go back to the plan, the lesson plan, if you require those, so the student can plan out also when they have to have that camera to be switched on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Marshall. Dr. Henny Hartono, so what kind of support do students and teachers need to make in order to have teaching learning successful? What is your strategy?
Yeah, okay. So I agree with all of the other panelists that one of the most challenging things about having hybrid learning is the teacher's mindset and also teachers' belief in online learning. And this is not easy to change the mindset just in 1 or 2 years, and we need to work together on that. So what we need to do is providing a forum or a community where the teachers can learn together about the technology things and how technology can help and support our teaching. So the faculties will not feel that they are left behind and they cannot get up with the advancement of the technology. And in our university, in our campus, we also provide workshops and also training for the faculty members so they can learn one another, they can support one another, and they can also motivate one another when they almost give up with new things, which is quite different from their previous experience, and we can motivate one another. But I think that must be a time, a time for reflecting again, yeah, our tasks as a teacher, um, and to think again about the teaching itself, what it means for us and what it means for our students. So it's not only about knowledge transfer if we talk about teachings and educational process. Um, so if we have online class, it's not only a matter of preparing our PowerPoint and then sharing that with our students, and then having the sessions with the students, and we don't really care whether they open their camera or not, and we just finish our session because we have to do it. So we really have to reflect again and think about our own teaching, whether we really want to help our students to be a better person in the future. So I think, well, teaching is not only about knowledge transfer. It's more than that. So if we have technology, so we thank technology that the technology helps us a lot in educational work. But again, we still have to think of other things. Yeah, sometimes what the students need is more than just our explanation. They need to be heard, and sometimes when we do just little things to our students, they will always remember that, and isn't that also a part of the education process? And when we do that, and then I think that will be something that the students will learn a lot from our sessions, and they will not lose the joy of learning, not only the students, but also the lecturers. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Heni. Yeah, I'm seeing here in the public chat, there's a comment, or if you want to continue with, if you would like to clarify that online, I'm giving the time now for the audience to ask. Mr. Daniel Tan, are you here? Okay, let's skip to Mr. Lee Chia Sang. You're welcome to open your mic and give your question or comment.
Oh, yes. I'm just thinking hybrid learning, the definition of hybrid learning should include the scenario that we have a student or faculty in person or online. So not just fully online. So for example, the faculty could be teaching a class in person with another group of students attending from remotely. So because of some of their concerns for public health and safety, they choose to be remote. So we need to have a separate infrastructure. For example, you need, let's say in class, you probably need to be able to have cameras that zoom into the student, so that the front which for student at the home can see who is asking question. So those can be done, but you need careful thinking about the classroom design. Just a quick comment. So the definition should include that as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the definition
Okay.
should be elaborated more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would any one of our panelists like to also give their comments on this?
Yeah, I agree. I agree because in many literature, hybrid learning is before pandemic. We know that in this pandemic or post pandemic, I think we have to redefine also how we define hybrid learning. In particular, like the one raised by our participant here, it means that we should not combine two different cohort of learners. It is not easy, infrastructure wise, assessment wise, feedbacking wise, and even instructional delivery. So it means that when a school decide to go back to hybrid learning, it has to be as flexible, defined to the institutional outcome of the organization. It means are we because but I totally understand for our administrators, especially in the finance, do we have to decide whether, say for example, just like for our university, we have to decide, say for example, if we have a course called humanities, and what if, because as of the moment in our country, going back to campus is not compulsory. That means our students still has the freedom whether to go on live on campus or to attend a class online. In the hybrid, like the one highlighted by Li Shay Seng, we have to decide, the institution have decided whether to mix a full online distance learners or for a hybrid learners. That is why it is called hybrid during the pandemic, because if you will read the literature in hybrid, the hybrid means there before pandemic simply refers to the use of technology in the face-to-face classroom. It does not mention about the combination of full online learning with the blended learners.
Okay, that's really interesting. There's also this comment in the public chat. Unfortunately, Dr. Daniel Tan is not here to give the comment on himself, but it's interesting to read here that to maximize or optimize the current situation, educational institutions have to reinvent themselves, both top academic leaders, top down, and the faculty ground up. The current approach of patchwork and ad hoc has not worked, according to him, after 2 years of COVID. The five of you are in there, being in the institution, being in the leadership area. How do you respond to this comment here from Daniel Tan?
Yeah, I want to share something that to correspond to respond. The first, for me, there is no possibility to back to the fully conventional as before. The technology is growing. The pandemic is still with us. There is no possibility. There is no sure if we cannot sure that the pandemic will go in very short time. So the hybrid should be the possible way how to combine and how to change student in class with student at home. So correspond to the Miss Dr. Cecile and Dr. Daniel. I think we have to change the pedagogy methods and the infrastructure. We have to change to the new way that we have to adopt the possibility to combine between the conventional and the new technology. So in my opinion, it is not possible back to the previous, the conventional one. So we need to change. The possible, the first step, we have to change how as a community, we change the mentality, we change the mindset, we change the willingness. So to move that we are changing. So that's what I'm thinking, and we are in Unpar in Bandung try to develop the class as a hybrid. It's mean we want to combine between student at home and student in class have the same experience. So the way we prepare and the way we evaluate, the process is changing when we have to move to the new era, what we call it. That's what I'm thinking.